This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
If dreaming is foolish, I am but a fool, for nothing exists without me. I am the center of all I survey, and the rest of you revolve around me.
That may be one of the most misunderstood and misinterpreted lyrics that you've ever written.
I would agree, my friend. What was it for you?
I took it literally.
I took it literally as well.
Well, do tell. Please.
Because it seems very true. Because we live in this society where people are we're together but alone, and that's what it looks like to me. It's like they say no man is an island. That's what it feels like, though. It feels like every man is an island.
Every man is an island.
And that's what that lyric kind of pointed at to me, that is man as an island speaking.
Agreed. That is definitely in there. What this whole song is about is defining your own reality. And we all, it seems like, especially, again, put yourself back, please, 25 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Discovering identity and all of that. Is life a dream? Is life something we create for ourselves? Some people's reality doesn't seem to jive with other people's reality. A lot of people get into blaming their entire life on their circumstance, on everything else that's happened in their life that they felt was out of their control. And that is what defines their life. It's not my fault. It's their fault. They're pushing it all out. This really is about accepting you are the center of all you survey. You are the middle of your own universe. There is no other, because inside your head, okay, accepting you have complete control of your own reality. I don't know. It's very Ayn Rand. It really is. It is, though. I mean, again, I was 25 reading those books.
Well, because Rush.
Hey, but it's fascinating to me that everyone took it as an arrogant stance when it actually felt emboldening, empowering to take control of your own life. That's what it was meant to be.
I think the use of the word "and the rest of you," which is an interesting way of bringing a plural into a singular.
Yeah.
Because you're taking everybody else and making him you. Yes. Like you're pointing it at one thing. So a group becomes one.
Yeah.
So the rest of you, I think that may be the key.
Sure.
To where it makes it feel kind of arrogant or derogatory.
Absolutely. It's not meant derogatory in any way.
Well, no, but it's meant whatever way you wanted to mean it.
Yeah.
It's the way it's interpreted by anybody who listens to it.
And you guys remember back in the day, I remember that review, one of the rags in Portland, that we got a 2-page review, and they spent a good page of it blasting the lyrics.
Right.
And I'm like,
something along the lines of like, it sounds like this guy had poetry before he wrote the words to a song. Wasn't it something like that?
Well, that would be true. But that wasn't the reason she was blasting it. The woman was blasting it because of the identity, and she took it as a very negative to feed to a teenager, that you are only yourself, and it doesn't matter what else is going on around you. And that means you can do anything you want. And that's, of course, completely out of context. That's what she read into it. But she felt strongly about it. My goodness.
And what's funny about that is that song was written well before, 10, probably 15 years before social media.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Talk about being together alone. Social media puts you in that position as well.
Yeah,
alone again, naturally. Right?
It is a lonely song. Make no mistake. No, it's a very lonely song. One of the things I remember most about writing this song was the difficulty we had in finally what we decided what it was finished. You wrote that great riff and kind of had that sort of talky sing song, and the whole thing builds up nicely. We tried to find a change for that song. We spent an inordinate amount of time for us because we loved what we had.
4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's it.
On the same day.
Yeah. Well, actually multiple days, and we just kept it as this 3-minute thing and never created that change that worked with it.
Well, it's funny because we stumbled upon a formula.
Well, we did most of the time. We were stumbling back then, Rich.
Yeah. True. I don't know if we heard it in print or something, but something about, lulls you in and grabs you by the throat.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's like by the time we had gotten to writing Clearly Confused, which this song was off of, I think that little seed was planted in the head. It's like, okay, we need to sound like ourselves.
Right.
And I remember when I came up with the riff, it's like, I want to do something that's very sparse and just kind of lulls you into it.
It left a lot of room for some
Right.
quiet vocals. Left a lot of room in there.
And everything just builds up slowly. I mean, it's just a single bass drum following the pulse. It's a pulse.
Right.
It's actually a waltz pulse, which is kind of weird when you
My
think about it.
favorite time signature, 3/4.
Yeah. And then it just busts open, and it's all of a sudden it's just manic, and then it just all of a sudden the dust settles again.
It starts over.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Birthed from playing live, one of the things that appealed about this song was the fact that it was so not only sparse, but also very dynamic. So even when we're playing live and that chorus ends, boom, it's literally just kick drum and bass for 4. And then you always have the guy that's really uncomfortable with silence in the audience yelling.
Right.
And of course, we have the inside joke about it that a review had stated that they liked the bass in the beginning of the song.
Yeah, that's great.
So
It's really, Tom, you really nailed the bass tone.
That's
on
a
that.
twangy bass.
That's a twangy bass. You play that on the high strings there? Is that what you did?
I do.
I
but,
thought so.
Playing devil's advocate, he does mirror that the second time around because it does just come in with bass and drums.
Indeed.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, the juxtaposition. But, for one of our songs, we're generally kind of all over the place and progressive and just, doing a lot of dynamics and everything else. This really didn't have that. It was,
Extraordinarily simple song.
yeah, but dynamic. But it resonated with people
I did.
much more than I think we ever thought it would.
Indeed.
I mean, it was. It's funny because as a musician, you're always taken aback with how much certain songs seem to resonate with people, and you're just going, I made this, and there's,
And I really like it.
and I put my hands on it, and I molded it and everything else, and I liked it, but I don't see where the connection is with why it resonates with people.
Why are there tears in your eyes when you listen to
Right.
it? Yeah, I gotcha.
And
Or
that,
what?
that's a
This is one of those songs.
yeah, and it's one of those. That's a great mystery of being a musician.
Truly. And what's amazing is that many people can hear a song and like it and think it's a perfectly fine song, and others will listen to it and it will move them to tears.
Right.
And we both know that. We both have those songs. We all have those songs. And it's unusual to me that most of the people that were our fans like this song. They think it's quite a good song. I think it's going to be the next one we add into our current stable of songs so we can start playing it live.
Sure.
And it's amazing to me, though, that others, it's the song for them,
Yeah.
right? And it's a trip. It's a trip, and I love
It's like
that.
any good music. It moves them in a certain direction.
Correct. But it's the other people it affects in a deeper way. I mean, someone talking about getting tattoos of the lyrics of this song on their arms.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
It's pretty powerful.
powerful, man. It is, and it's a lyric I've always loved. I am not lost. I'm just looking around for what I believe to be the way.
But part of it may be the fact that none of it's contrived.
No, it's very true.
And when you mean something, I think people can tell
Yeah.
that you actually
Authenticity.
mean what you're doing. The other thing is,
What you're telling me is that the identity issues I had when I was 25 were real. I really wasn't sure who the hell I was.
They were real to you, weren't they?
They were indeed.
Apparently they're real to other people also.
I was going to say, and they were real to you because you were fully locked in, my friend.
Sure,
we both
sure.
had the access to that.
But as a musician, we create singular songs,
Indeed.
but you also would create albums. So they go together as a volume of work. We don't sit back and listen to the album as we know what's going to come next. So you never get that immersive thing that, let's say, a fan gets that somebody's never heard it before. Even us, as fans of other music, you put on a record and the needle hits the groove and you just sit there and you take it all in. You go from song, and then something will pop out to you a little, but you take it as a whole. We didn't write it that way. We write one song, it goes into a volume of songs. And back in the day, we did not spend a lot of time. We did not sand the edge. We sanded our edges live at the Wow Hall.
That's very true.
when we get responses 20, 25 years later from something that we did, so build it in a woodshed kind of aspect, it's amazing. And I haven't completely come to terms of exactly how I feel about that. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm appreciative of the, but it's still weird to me. It's like, yeah, but we just put this together with, glue and gum in a woodshed.
I would say that to an extent, Rich, but I'll tell you, I mean, the first iteration I showed, you were at my place the other night. I whipped out that old notebook that the spring has actually rusted onto the pages, right? You saw that. Mm-hmm. So I had that notebook when I was 21 years old.
Right.
And the first time I wrote the words minding my clarity were in that poem about fading.
Right.
When I was 21.
Right.
So again, identity seeking, and somehow in my head, lost in my head, which I still am.
But it wasn't lost.
It was getting out.
Right.
Right. So that that line, I'm not lost, I'm just looking around. Mm-hmm. People talk about when kids are trying to find themselves, when you're a teenager in your early 20s, or whenever it hits you need to find your identity. Oh, he's lost. Look at him going from job to job. Oh, she's lost. She doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She can't hold a relationship. Oh, they're lost. Are you lost, or are you just looking around? And there's a key difference in the belief of yourself.
Well, sure.
And who you are. If you can reframe that, I'm not lost. I'm looking.
It's expanding your view.
Yeah, indeed.
Because whether you're tied to the front or being pulled behind, we're all part of the same train. The connection between the two is where people see things. It's the view from where you see things. So your view at 21 years old, maybe somebody else's view at 35 years old, maybe somebody else's view at 60 years old. So, I mean, to try to put a marker on that or try to understand how people see things, that to me, that's a cul-de-sac. You get in a circle of that. We don't do that.
Right.
As artists, you just open your heart, you just bleed all over the place, and whatever happens, happens.
Indeed. Indeed. And just hope your other bandmates have enough blood to replace yours.
But that in itself is a point, because we didn't all start at that point where you're not, you allow yourself to be vulnerable when you write a song.
Oh yeah, it's true. Very true.
Because initially it's preening and prancing in front of a mirror and thinking about how other people are going to view you.
I did my fair share of preening and prancing.
We all did. And we still do to an extent. But the separation of being creative and actually going in and writing songs and just doing whatever comes naturally and just bearing your soul to the universe is not something that you can contrive.
Not truly. You're correct. You're correct. Lots of people contrive it.
Right.
But
you can't.
Exactly. That authentic feeling.
Exactly.
And it's defined differently for many different people. I loved listening to Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins talk about performances. And there's a lot of bands these days that have the exact same performance of the exact same thing with the exact same hits and the exact same changes and same talking in between songs. And he said he could never do that because that's not a true performance for him. So every one of his shows is different. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of respect in that. And I completely get where he's coming from. Right. Yet there's also an attraction to an artist who wants to create the most amazing show and connection for their fans every single time. So they do practice those pieces in between songs because they're looking to create that fantastic show each time. So once again, it's how you view it, the framework with which you look at it.
Right. Well, you think about it, we have to try to dig back and figure out where our emancipation came from.
Emancipation, good word.
Well, freedom to write how you feel, and it just sits out there, and it's going to do whatever it's going to do, and whoever feels the way they're going to feel about it is the way they're going to feel about it. That came at a certain point. Rock and roll is a baby. It's still a baby. In the early days, we had systems that were built around writing songs, like the Brill Building. That's a good example. You had songwriters that sat together and wrote songs and hits for everybody that was an artist at the time. I would probably give a nod to the Beatles. I'm going to say it's probably Sgt. Pepper's, because Sgt. Pepper's, you can tell, is not... They have enough power and enough, moxie
you're
at
talking
the time.
about give artists complete control.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, where they felt like they can do whatever they want, and they're doing whatever they feel like they need to do.
Right. And I think you're right.
Whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
The first one that got popular was certainly the Beatles, I would say. Your point's well taken, though. Something we've always done that's both been a help and a hindrance to us is the classic thing is where the spirit moves us, we're going to go. So if it's an acoustic song, we're going to do that. If it's a double kick metal thing, we're going to do that.
Well, sure.
And again, it's been a blessing and a curse for us.
Right.
Agreed. Again, trying to change something over and over again, like this song, trying to add to it in a multitude of ways. And we couldn't figure it out because this is how it came out.
Well, it's always like that. It's like, we have a square peg and we built a round hole.
Yeah, indeed.
Beating your head against the wall, trying to figure, we do it all. We still do it to this day.
Absolutely.
It's because you want to take things to the next level. You want to take things to be the best that they could possibly be. Yeah. And if your mind says, this isn't finished, you can do more.
I still listen to this song and think it's not finished, which I think is actually, I do. I believe, though, that is part of the attraction of the song.
Sure.
It leaves you wanting more. It feels like there should be more. And wherever it's going, it doesn't get there.
I think it'd be interesting just to open dialogue with people and fans and say, what do you get from this?
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
How does this resonate for you, and why does it resonate that way for you? Because we don't know. We did not write it in a way that we thought this is going to resonate. Oh, you hear that part? That's going to resonate with somebody at some point in time. We just completely sat down and drank a couple 40s of oldie and
indeed
made a baby
and raided some old notebooks.
Yeah.
So Andrew, John Bolt told us his favorite line from the song, and I agree with him. I think it's a very, very powerful and very straightforward line. And that line is, I'll take the credit for every success and the blame for each failure to be.
Yeah.
Is that you taking responsibility? What is that?
That's exactly what it is. That's what the whole song is, taking responsibility for yourself and who you are. And, to Rich's point around, I am the center of all I survey and the rest of you revolve around me. That's how that line is meant. Now, I deliberately used a challenging choice of words to make it sound, I don't know if necessarily arrogance is the right word, but I wanted it in your face. I wanted it to be a challenge to someone who's listening. But it's the same thing. You're the center of all you survey because you are your own life. You create it your own way. If you really want to accept who you are, truly accept everything about yourself. Take the credit for every success you have. No false humility. False humility is fake. It's inauthentic. It's unreal. Accept the success. Admit the success and stand up and take the blame. When you fall down, when you fumble and kick the ball across the floor and stub your toe, stand up and say, yeah, it was me. It's extraordinarily powerful if you can live that way. And these lyrics are about me discovering that acceptance of my own life, not living through somebody else, not living through blame, not saying I don't have control. Life happens to me.
This might have been a prediction on your part too, because I feel like back then we didn't realize the power of taking responsibility and the power of really owning your own shit to the point where I got it, it's mine, I own it, there it is.
Be it good or bad. Be it good and bad. Everything. And if you really want to go meta to the next level, there's no good and no bad. It just is your life.
Well, and go meta off of a level with that where it's your interpretation of what it is and more importantly, and this is the big one, choosing what you do with it. So if you don't learn your lesson, you're the guy that still gets off work, drinks a case of beer, goes home, gets drunk, wakes up and does it every single day. There's no learning. There's no growing to the next level. There's no getting anywhere else.
And you are so correct. The other piece of it is accepting your bad, accepting the parts of you that either people don't like, or maybe you don't even like. And that line, I've pardoned my soul of every offense and climbed to the top of the wall. That is accepting all of the crap that I had done. I mean, we've all done.
It's also close to the crescendo of the song where we're sort of coming up. So I think that we should maybe take pause for just a moment and actually listen to the second verse of Minding My Clarity.
All right.
Focus eludes me, I must concentrate. Or get lost on the edge of this dream. Embracing the the purpose of breathing. It's all keeps the perspective on me. I've hardened my soul of every offense and climbed to the top of the wall. The chasm is beckoning me into the maw, and I'm resisting temptation to fall. Oh!
There's those dynamics
Yeah.
right at the end, right?
Take it down to nothing, bring it back up.
And then bring it up again.
Sure.
Because it kicks up during that pre-chorus, then it kicks up again in the chorus, which we'll listen to here in a couple of minutes.
It's tension and resolve.
And we're still building the tension right now, right?
Right. Letting the ears rest.
Right.
The notes, the silence in between the notes, right?
Yeah, there you go. Those dynamics, we always love those.
Sure.
Almost every song on this album has dynamic changes like that.
Well, it feels natural, and I think that may be a draw to it too when you think about it. And there's been studies around this and everything else, but you let the ear rest.
Indeed.
And then there's the anticipation that something is going to happen again. And then it crashes in, and then you know it's going to end.
The same thing.
You know?
That's why we love stops.
Sure.
In many of our songs, we have stops.
Sure.
Give that ear a rest even for 2 seconds, even
Right.
for a single second.
Sure.
And it's almost like catching your breath.
Right.
Bam, and it hits again.
Yeah.
We still write that way.
Sure.
This new album, we have more than one song that has a stop that way, and there's a ton of dynamics, of course.
I'm going to out myself a little bit here.
Out himself. Uh-oh.
As many metal riffs as I've written in my life, I still take a more nod to a symphonic approach to looking at music, because somebody told me a long time ago, when you listen to symphonic music, you should turn your stereo up so you can hear even the softest parts.
Right, of course.
So when it comes in and it's just blaring, it's supposed to be that way. You know, you're supposed to be part of every single thing that happens in that song, from the tiniest little pizzicato violin in the background to the just whole brass section coming in and just breathing fire. That made more sense to me than, and I hate to say it, but the whole metal thing, until it became more progressive in dynamics and everything else, that's what lost me. And I didn't want that with what we did.
I think that has to be, though, what I find interesting is, as well as I do, that metal has a lot of its roots in classical music.
Sure.
So I think, like a lot of different forms of music, like people are saying now, rock and roll music is losing its blues. It's current rock and roll that's popular on the radio seems to be losing its sort of real blues roots, and maybe metal lost those symphonic roots, but then it came back again with some of those progressive bands and some of the more modern bands. And again, Porcupine Tree's 20 years old, but they're a great example of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's progressive metal that actually brings it along.
Sure, of course.
Because I don't think anything, even we're going to see Mastodon tomorrow.
Right.
That is not straight metal.
No.
That's progressive in the fact that they've gotten to a point where they can write whatever they want to do, and it kind of follows that same line with like a symphonic kind of section. This song, Minding My Clarity, does this in the dynamics.
Right, it just picks up.
It just brings you down to nothing and pulls it back up again, and it slowly lets you down to the next part.
Mm-hmm. The song on Mumbles and Screams that does that in a very, very similar dynamic way is Pain.
Sure.
It builds itself all the way up, then brings itself down to nothing again. It starts extremely small and gets extremely huge.
Well, this is an extension of that, because our songwriting is becoming more and more honed, and
we know what we like.
We know what we like, yeah. The thing I think it gets lost is it's not a preconceived idea.
No.
It's always of the moment.
Indeed. And we will hone that moment at the same time. It's inspired by a moment, without question.
We fanboy on ourselves. I mean, it's a strange thing to say,
Rich,
but
I think you're a great guitar player. You think I'm a great singer. It's just the truth. Our creativity matches, man. It blends. It's a beautiful thing.
Every band that ever hears this would agree to the fact that, like, you're in practice and somebody comes up with a riff and everybody looks over and goes, yes.
Right. Absolutely.
There's a resonation there that does something. That's fanboying on yourself.
Sure.
Well, and that's all we're doing. All we're doing is capturing the moments that mean the most to us.
Right.
That's all it is. Because for every Minding My Clarity that was written, we can confess to the fans that there was 20 other songs that didn't even get birthed.
Right.
Of course,
Right.
we know
Because
and
Rich
that's-
was using the bathroom when it happened.
There's the
or
but
we
there's
had to
the
turn the TV
It's
down.
not just that though. There's the secret sauce is knowing which ones are going to be great, which ones you really feel do channel all of that energy in all the right ways and create something greater than the sum of its parts.
That absolutely is the secret sauce, indeed.
Well, how many times have we sat down and everybody had to put a number on their feeling about a song?
I
So-
made us do that for
yeah.
years, man.
Between 1 to 5, what do you feel about this song? And then we go back and go, okay, this one's gone. And you
Oh yeah, many great songs went by the wayside.
yeah. So I mean,
Jarrett's great line. You guys tossed away more great songs than most bands write.
Right. So that's the the it resounds with everybody.
Yeah.
And it's more beautiful when it happens in the room.
What I think what's great is to bring this back full circle is to think about how extraordinarily simple this song is. I mean, come on.
From
This
the
is-
musical perspective, yeah,
that's-
it's pretty simple.
Exactly. It's very simple. Melodically, it's very simple. I mean, it's a very basic melody that I just elevate as the song goes along. At the same time, whatever it becomes something that's resonated with people.
So doesn't it feel sometimes, I could be completely like just in my head on this, but as a musician and as an artist, it's like you have secret access to the balcony.
Sure. Whatever that je ne sais quoi, whatever
So you
that
can-
moment you have access to is.
Well, you can actually separate yourself from everything else and get above it and look down on it and feel that, whatever it is with the universe, and it just becomes a separation for a while, and then you have to go back down at some point in time. That's where the bathroom is. And but there is that separation when everything hits, that symbiotic moment, that synergistic moment when everything hits. That with this song, it did it. We wouldn't. I mean, it's so simplistic, but there's something going on, and we just kind of separated for a second. We could like see the broad view of everything. I think as a musician, we strive for that, but there is a secret access to a balcony that we don't have, so we can have a long view.
What I think is great about that metaphor you've created there is that we have that access, but we can't do it every time we want to.
No.
It somehow sometimes
There is
the
a
door is
tap
locked.
on the shoulder.
Sometimes the door is locked. Sometimes the door is wide open.
Right.
Sometimes we take 2 steps out and like, man, it's windy and cold out here. I want to go back inside.
Right.
It doesn't work. But other times it becomes something special.
Sure.
I agree.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the thing that separates it. And that's the beauty. That's the drug. That's the thing that keeps you driving. You feel that,
That connection.
yeah.
You create something is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right. It's greater than you.
That's right.
It's a strange feeling to create something that's greater than the thing that created it.
1 + 1 = 10.
Right.
Well, I think that perhaps we should listen to the end of the song.
Let's do it.
A little bit of those dynamics. So
Yeah.
And
coming
that
right up.
twangy bass.
Let's come. Yeah, I know. Let's come in right after the second verse, all the way through the end, because I that line that John likes and I like too. That take the credit for every success.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll take the credit for every success and the blame for each failure to be. I've constructed my goal to take every blow, as long as they're all aimed at me. I don't know if I'm right, but I've never been wrong when dividing my doubts or beliefs. See, all this exists because I say it does, and I'm going.
So there's something interesting that we did on that song
Indeed.
that became a kind of Henry's Child standard.
Although this would be a later manifestation of that standard.
Sure.
We started that even earlier.
With I Will. Well, I Will is the one that really stands out to me.
You know the one we probably started it on?
What?
Cradle. It's the same riff, expands once, expands a second time.
Right.
So
There's heavier, there's heavy, and heavier.
and
Right.
then heaviest.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Cradle.
first one. I think the reason for that is, Rich, that's one of the very few things I ever brought to practice. All I had was a single riff. You're like, that's not enough for a song. I'm like, okay, Rich, you should do something with that. You're like, okay, let's just make it bigger.
Right.
And you were able to crank up the tension and the intensity on that
Right.
single riff so easily.
Well, that's the secret.
There
you
you
know,
go.
well, that's my interpretation of the secret.
It's one of the many secrets.
Well, let's just build it, build it, build it. Then you let it go.
Yeah, let it fall off a cliff. Let it fall off a cliff.
It doesn't just need to build and fall off. That's a little, kind of flaccid. But, you build it up and you build it up and you build it up. And again, people expect it's going to go somewhere.
Right.
It's a little like the movies and, suspending the disbelief.
It's the payoff.
Yeah. We expect something is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not typical. It's ooh.
Right.
The ears perk up. So yeah, I mean that was the thing that we tried to do, is kind of build and build and build and build a thematic kind of theme around everything. So
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We still write that way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still one of the many tools in the toolbox.
sure.
Yeah, it's fun. And I think another lyric that resonates to this day, even maybe has some more, feels even more relevant, at least to me at this age, is I don't know if I'm right, but I've never been wrong when defining my doubt or belief. When you want to talk about your doubts and whatever they may be, and your beliefs, whatever they may be, there is no right or wrong. It's whatever you choose. And everyone will tell you you're wrong for your belief, whatever your belief may be. And they may even be an offensive belief. And they may attempt to wrong you for it. And there is no right or wrong. And that's something I think that gets lost in translation in today's discourse, shall we say, socially. What you believe is your own. What you believe is your own. It can be altered and influenced, no question. And it should be altered and influenced. You should always be open. I would hope you are always open. See, there I go, with shoulding on somebody's belief, right? I hope you're always open. I like to think I'm always open.
It's a little long view if you take the long view, because the more you kind of hone in and zoom into everything, the more you back off of it, the further you back off, the more it makes sense.
Absolutely.
So you go from city, county, country, continent, planet, universe.
Yeah.
It makes more sense when you go, oh, we're just all part of the same thing. So why
Right.
are we just
Right.
fighting over just stupid crap on Facebook?
It's
But,
exactly that.
Yeah.
It's stupid crap.
It's stupid crap.
So again, I've never been wrong
Yeah.
defining my doubt or belief.
Yeah.
And no one is ever wrong when
No.
defining their doubt or belief.
I've never been wrong.
I think that's part of the inclusivity of our fan base that I've always treasured and admired. We have a wildly diverse fan base when it comes to their ideals and interests. I mean, of course, they're all music lovers. That's there's no other way around that. Be that as it may, after that, the personalities and the people that are wildly diverse, and I've always loved that.
Yeah.
There's something to that, and it's that inclusivity. It's that there is no wrong, and frankly, there's no right. We're just us. Let's enjoy this moment
It's funny too, because
and live in this moment.
in this country, when you're a musician and you're an artist, it's like you place a lot of your value and what your worth value is, how much money you can make doing what you do.
Oh, we did that, Rich. When we were younger, we both did that.
I think kind of we never get away from that because it's kind of programmed into us. And if I had a nickel for every time that I had a fan come up to me and go, "Why aren't you signed?
Yeah,
How come you guys aren't bigger than you are?"
I know.
And that is a completely open-ended feedback loop of a question that nobody can answer.
And really, it
doesn't matter.
And it's also perception.
Sure, it's 100% perception, but it was weird. It's like a weird backhanded compliment. It's like, I agree, and
Right?
The funny thing about the song is the fact that the title is not a lyric.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think anyone that
and we shorten it to minding.
of course, we shorten everything. We shorten everything to one
Because
word.
minding my clarity is too long to write on a set list.
Apparently. Laborious.
Apparently, it's so laborious.
Not laborious, too long.
Interestingly enough, this is the one time, I won't say the one time, perhaps though, naming the song something that's not in the lyrics yet all of the lyrics pertain to, if you pay any attention. Read the lyrics and the title fits perfectly.
Right.
I really think so. And the title was a line in a poem, right?
That you went, that works.
Minding my clarity. It's very,
Yeah.
Be clear with who you are. Be clear with your life. It's so easy to let yourself get clouded with everything around and feel like you're not in control. So my life is out of control. This happens to me. All this life happens to me. It happens to me. It happens to me. And therefore people give up control and think they're out of that control. And their life is created by what happens around them versus them creating their life.
Sure.
And things happened around you.
There's a lot of layers of noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, clarity.
I
Tune in the radio station. You are the radio station.
The funny thing is, it's like, I couldn't even tell you about the title. You just said, this is what it's called. And I went, yeah. And that was that. I mean, for the most part, we had a kind of a clear line of demarcation between I wrote the music, you wrote the lyrics and the vocal lines, and that was kind of what it did. And I didn't pay out. In fact, we had discussions in the past about you didn't think anybody was listening to your lyrics.
I felt that for years.
And you were right. Nobody was.
The fans knew the songs better than the,
right.
than the band members.
No, the band was just like, give me my blinders. I'm going full speed ahead. I'm doing what I need to do.
I'm probably not the only lyricist that said that.
Oh, I'm sure. But as it's kind of come full circle and with 7 Second Circle and everything else, and I become more of a lyricist, and it's like, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Because it's an extension of your thoughts and your feelings, and they come from someplace. They're not just arbitrary words put on a paper. You're trying to come across to people and make a point in the most obtuse way you possibly can.
I would say it would be to illuminate feelings.
Sure.
It's to shine a light on something. And that's part of the ferocity of performance, is that you are attempting to get across something, how you feel, how you think, and the intensity with which you do it, whether it's a quiet love song,
right,
or it's a full-blown screaming metal song. There's the best of them all. The best of all of those songs are the conveyance of a feeling, a state of mind, a way of being, and an extension of a moment. And when the audience is in that moment with you, and some of the songs we're able to connect with, Failure. There's a reason that the whole audience sings
Sure.
My Failure. They understand everyone has failed. Everyone has failed.
Right.
And everyone's been crushed by their failure. Some can't even get out of it. Mm-hmm. I Will's the same way. I will. It's complete declaration. And when people are in the moment of that, in that performance and feeling that, the intensity of emotion, the wave you can create with sound and the music, you guys have all felt it. It's fantastic.
Sure.
And all of that is part of it. All of that's part of it.
Yeah. The way people perceive things, and the way there's a dance and a marriage between music and word. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
It is. It's a beautiful thing.
I go back to the post-rock thing. I love post-rock. I sit there and listen to post-rock, and I write lyrics to it.
Yeah, it's a different...
Yeah,
agreed. I will listen to great post-rock bands, and I'll give a shout out to This Patch of Sky. I think they're fantastic. I find myself singing along, making up words. That's actually, to me, from me personally, that's a compliment to the band.
Absolutely,
because their
music
showing
is
a
so strong
compelling,
melodic sense,
and their music is so
doing.
compelling.
Yeah.
It makes me want to sing to it.
Yes.
I mean, that is meant as a high compliment.
Yes,
Because
it's
I listen to lots of bands and I don't want to sing along. Yeah. Anyway, but Minding My Clarity, I think it's something that is. Well, I don't think I know. It's something I still deal with. Well, don't let yourself get clouded by everything happening around you.
Well, sure.
Be yourself. Own yourself. Own all the good, all the bad. Yeah, the more you obfuscate, the lesser you become.
It's like the updated version of I Will.
In a way.
Yeah.
In a way, you could say that. Although this is, again, I think Nikki nailed the lyric that is the key to the song. I'm not lost. I'm just looking around for what I believe to be the way. All these obscure
not
songs.
all that wander are lost.
That's exactly right. It's not an offshoot of that, without question. Without question. And I really think that if people are willing to own that when they're young and lost, if they're willing to realize, I'm not lost. Wait a minute, I'm not lost. I'm just not sure what's next.
We're music fans.
Yeah. A song, when it's recorded, becomes a photograph. It's truly a snapshot in time.
Right.
Of the moment that it was created. It is the capture of that moment, of that emotion, of that songwriting, the history that it took to do that, the stories behind some of these songs and behind others. They came from poems. They came from a riff. They were lost and rediscovered like Lie Before. There's always something that they were changed at the last second, like Round Trip. There's always a story behind that. And to me, it's revisiting those moments in life. And frankly, I'm super proud of it. It is a rare thing to write beautiful songs, and I want to revisit that beauty. I think it was, in fact, I know it was, Roger Waters told an amazing story, I thought, in a moment. It was a powerful one for me. How does he write music? What does he do to write lyrics? What does he do to get inspired to write a guitar riff or a bass riff these days? Where does it come from? He said what he typically does these days, and this was 20 years ago, so not modern Roger Waters.
Right.
He would pour himself a bath. He would set up a bunch of candles, have a bottle of wine, get a couple of notebooks, get in the bath, and listen to old Pink Floyd.
Right.
I would listen to the genius songs we wrote to try to get myself into that state of mind again, to find that access once again. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And at the same time, it can easily be interpreted as arrogant, but it's not. That's completely authentic. It's completely authentic.
It just feels a little different because you're the maker. It's weird because when you have a timestamp with something, my mind goes right back to when it was created.
Yes.
And it's funny too because there'll be certain points. I'll hear something. I'll go back to Dogwood recording studio. I'm like, that goes right to, or I'll go back to when we played a show. It doesn't go necessarily back to our carport, which was where everything was born.
There are moments, those moments that froze those songs in time, whether they're recording or writing moments. There were moments. Reasonable Doubt is frozen for me in a performance we did in San Francisco in front of 75 people.
Right.
We all remember we were we nailed the song.
Yeah.
We finished it, just felt the groove the entire way, and we're like, that was it. We can recreate that over and over. That's going to be one of our finest tunes. That is the defining moment of that song for me.
Right.
A random performance in San Francisco on a Tuesday night in front of 70 people.
Reasonable Doubt lands for me in the carport with the extra gushy carpet. Yeah. So it must have been summertime. I either had sandals or was barefoot or something. I remember it sort of being really gushy, and remember that there were bass strings lying on the side. And I remember writing that because we immediately recorded it. This is when Jarrett just got his DA-38s.
Yeah, I remember.
And we immediately sort of put it on wax.
I think that's why I love listening to those old songs. And it also does get me into the mood of creativity, because that's the expression for me personally. That's the expression in many of the songs of some of my finest creativity I've ever been part of. And so I love being re-inspired by that. And that's what Roger Waters was saying.
Well, sure.
Being inspired by the moments when you did something you think is brilliant. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's what gets me sometimes. It's of the moment. And it's a little hard for me to separate, like Tom was saying, his memory of when that happened. It's weird to separate yourself from those memories. I mean, I have memories from Mumbles and Screams going back to Pro Arts.
Me too.
You know, every time I hear Honestly, I see myself in that room recording Honestly.
Every time I listen to Pain, I think of you not able to get down off of Cresswell, and myself and Chris Holm and Tony in there doing another mix of Pain and calling you on the phone. And you're like, I can't get off the mountain, man.
Right. Yeah.
Well, just like you said in Mining, there is no right.
There is no right or wrong.
No right. It's all just our interpretation of it.
Indeed. Well,
and by the way, before we wrap up, though, real quick, I should be totally transparent with everyone. Reasonable Doubt is not on any recording.
No.
Nor is it on
it.
Retrospective 20. It is just sort of in the archives between Hiding and Lost, is what Andrew
Between
says.
Hiding and Lost, that has some of the finest
So how
lyrics.
many songs are on in Between Hiding and Lost?
I think there are 12.
Yeah.
And there are 12. And it's that song, the melody, the syncopation, the lyric, some of the finest stuff we've done. I've always loved that song.
We have all
even our little 4-track recording of it. It holds up.
Sure.
It holds up. That's a brilliant song.
I don't know what it is. You know, that would be a whole discussion and type of podcast that we could do at some point, is why things make it and why things don't. In our context. Yeah, in our context. Why we say, see, I don't think that's up to the the QC that we think it should be.
If we do that podcast, Tommy, I'm going to invite Jarrett. I think he's got a great objective analysis as a person who has seen us write.
You mean disgusted?
It's like, what are you getting rid of that song for? What you're not playing that song? What?
Right.
I love how he gets almost offended when we're not playing a song sometimes. It's great. It's brilliant.
Because we're our own worst critic.
And sometimes to our own detriment.
Oh, sure.
Songs like Only Man do not make Clearly Confused. I have listened to the songs on Clearly Confused from front to back, and then listened to Only Man.
Right.
And that would be probably the fourth best song on the album.
Okay, I'll tell you what. If we get feedback about that, I'll set aside a podcast and we'll get together and do Between Hiding and Lost.
Are you saying we've had enough babble now, Tommy, trying to end this thing for us?
Well, we are deconstructing Mining My Clarity.
Oh, that's true. That's a good song.
It's deconstructed.
It's been deconstructed
a few
times.
And unfortunately, I think I took a piece of the song down a rabbit hole, and Rich took another piece and went down another rabbit hole.
Oh, I love it, though. I love it. It's great. It's great.
Love that song. It's, those lyrics are born of at least a dozen different poems over the course of years, trying to figure out what the hell life meant and what it meant.
You don't know when you're going
to
to duct tape something to something else, and it's like, hey, it fits. I found the missing link.
Perfectly.
Well, it's that way with music too. How many songs have we written that like you had a part for a long time, try to shoehorn it into something else, doesn't work. Write something else later on, there it is.
Absolutely.
There was a reason that you wrote that part.
Yeah, there is.
Totally, of course, yeah.
That part is just going to sit over here, and it's just going to sit there. They don't need to be whole all the time. They just need to be little sections that you're going to use. Because if it resonates with you and it kind of sticks around in your brain, and you go back to it over and over again, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, indeed.
It's like mental muscle memory.
Absolutely. You still got some riffs, and I've still got some lyrics and melodies. They bubble to the surface and they work out. So, do we end this now, Tom, on the final line of Minding?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
all right.
I have to take a leak.
Goodbye.